Hello everybody and welcome back to Nathan Adams Cars. Today we're going to talk about the new Toyota RAV4. That's going to include the 2019 and the 2020 model, which are currently both available for sale as of now. It is December, the end of the year, so there are a lot of deals to be had on the 2019 in particular. And I wanted to tell you, as a former car salesperson who sold for a few years, I have a lot of experience with how the dealership deals work when it comes to buying a new car, and I wanted to talk to you about that. There is a difference between buying a new car and buying a used car when it comes to the incentives and the deals. The most important thing I would tell anybody who's looking for a new car is to do your research. That is something that the customers who negotiate well and get a good deal, they know what they're talking about and they can justify asking for a discount, and that really helps them. So I wanted to give you that information. Do your research. So when you're doing the research for your new car purchasing experience, I like to break it up into 3 different things. First, you're going to look at the reviews of the car, see what it's good at and what it's not. And then 2 is going to be the incentives and the deals that you might get. And number 3 is going to be the finances, how you're actually planning on purchasing the car. All right, so now let's get started. All right, now for the review segment. The first review I'm going to bring up is a Motor Trend review. And you can see a review for a lot of the new cars just by going in, selecting the make and model, and picking your review that way. I like this Motor Trend review because it gives you tells you like what is new about the car in bullet points at the very top of the review, and kind of some good things and bad things about the car. So if you're looking at that, some of the new things for the 2020 versus the 2019 is that the 2020 has a couple different trim options, like the TRD Pro Off-Road is a new trim which is debuting in the 2020. 2019 was the first year of the remodel, which is the 5th generation of the RAV4. It came out in 2019. Now in 2020, they're just changing the structure of how the car is sold, marketed, which packages are offered, things like that. They're offering this TRD Pro, which is a new trim, so that's exciting. If you want the TRD Pro, you have to go for the 2020, and that's good to know. Also, you get Android Auto capability with the 2020, which leads me to believe that you don't have it on the 2019. You have Apple CarPlay on the 2019, but not Android Auto. But on the 2020, you have both. So there's just a couple things to think about. If you're looking for a great deal on an XLE trim, for example, the trim is kind of different because in the 2020, you don't get the moonroof with that, but you do get the driver's seat, whereas it's the opposite on the 2019. For the review, I'm going to do 3 reviews which have a rating. Each of them have a rating, like an expert reviewer rating, and I'm going to compile them together and get an average rating for this car. All right? Using multiple sources is nice because you get to kind of compare different sources in case there are biases. And there will be, because, this is not Consumer Reports. It's biased. They have a lot of advertising money in there. And maybe it's not biased, but it's good to have multiple sources anyway. To keep it together and make sure that the numbers kind of add up together for an average, I'm going to convert all these into a percentage out of 100, which is what percentage means. So the Edmunds review. Edmunds expert rating, 7.7 out of 10. They give the driving performance a 7, and comfort on the road 7.5. Ergonomics is good, and basically 77 out of 100 is not the best score. I've seen a better score for the CR-V, and I think a lot of it has to do with the driving. Review number 2 that I looked at is going to be Car and Driver. Now, just a quick interruption, I'm going to be adding all the links for this entire buyer's guide process that I went through when researching the car. All the links are going to be in the description below, so check those out. Keep in mind also, I'm going to add this disclaimer right in the middle of this part, that when I get to the incentives and the deals and all that stuff, these numbers and all these things are based on incentives that come out on a monthly basis. So when you're checking these links in the description that I'm adding, it should be automatically pulling up the new incentives or whatever it is. So we'll talk more about that later. Review number 2, Car and Driver gives it a 4 out of 5. They say that it is a compelling choice in a crowded segment. It offers a broad lineup of something for nearly everybody. Toyota does a great job of creating packages that are appealing to people and marketing. They're a great marketing company. Some companies are not as good as Toyota, and that's evident by the fact that Toyota is selling some of the most cars. The RAV4 is one of the best-selling vehicles in mass production today. It is basically the best-selling car that's not a truck. Pickup trucks are leading. This is right behind them as the best-selling non-truck. So the rating is 4 out of 5, which I converted to 80%. I know it's not the most precise rating, but for all other cars, if I can do the same, I will, to just try to keep it apples to apples. I'm also basing this on the base model, front wheel drive, because we're going to be talking about numbers in these videos, and the best way to keep it apples to apples is to look at what comes standard. When you go up to different options and things like that, you can really pick the car that works best for you. Some of them have better options, so that might be a reason why you buy one car versus another, the way that they divide their packages up and give you the most value. But in this case, we're just going to stick with the basic trim for all the cars, and this car overall gets an 80% rating from Car and Driver. Review number 3 comes from JD Power, and they are giving this car an 82% rating. They're giving the quality and reliability an 80, the driving experience is an 82, the dealership experience is an 83, and as somebody who worked at a dealership, I'm sure anybody who's bought a new car knows about how they tell you to give them 100% on the survey. It comes down to this. This is the reason why. Dealerships are incentivized by the manufacturer because of the surveys. If they get great surveys, then they're rated better for companies like Consumer Reports and JD Power and things like that. So if you did have a great experience, it's good to give your dealership a great experience, and if not, like a great survey response, and if not, then don't. But it seems like Toyota, they got a lot of good responses. 83 is very good. It has great ratings all across, but the resale is fantastic. That's one of the most important things about this car, is it's just so valuable. You know, this car, it has good resale value, so that if you buy it, the risk with owning a depreciating asset like this is diminished a little bit because it has such a great resale value. You know, if you look at some old RAV4s, people are still selling them for a lot of money, and it's hard to buy a used one because what's the point? You might as well buy a new one, you know what I mean? If you get a good deal on it. So anyway, that's one of the things. When you add up all of these ratings, 82% here for the third one, the average I got was 79.7%. So just below 80% rating for the RAV4. Very good rating. Now, I don't know if that is really matching up properly with the fact that this is the best-selling car. That's not a pickup truck, because Toyota does excellent marketing and all of that. But the experts rate it as a 79.7%. All right, now, as you're looking at reviews for the new car that you're looking for, definitely go to the website of the manufacturer. Sometimes it's hard to find, like you can't just type in honda.com. It's not going to take you to the United States version where they're selling the cars to you. So that's just another example. But anyway, I have the links in the description. It might be better just to Google it, and you can kind of see there. But when you get to the Toyota page, you can see the trim levels for all of them, and there are a lot. There's the LE, XLE, XLE Premium, Adventure, and then you got XSE Hybrid. You got a limited trim, and then the 2020 version, or the 2020 new trim, the TRD off-road trim. So 7 trims that I can see here, including the hybrid. That kind of shows you how the review was saying that, you know, you really got a choice for everybody. And in between that, you have a good selection of options and packages. So you can get individual options to add to these, or you can get a package to add on top of the trim level. So it really gives you variability and the type of car that you can get, and that's important. So looking at these prices, keep in mind they all have little disclaimers you can click on the bottom. The base car has a starting MSRP of $25,850. That is exclusive. It does not include the destination charge, which is $1,120 for destination charge. They are itemizing these things separately and marketing this car as a car that costs $25,850, but the real MSRP would add $1,120 to that. So what would it be, $26,970 or something? Yeah, $26,970 starting for the RAV4 if you include the destination charge, right? So then the all-wheel drive is an option for all of these. I'm not sure how it works with the hybrid. I'm not really talking about the hybrid in this video, but the all-wheel drive adds $1,400 for each trim. So be aware of that. Having the awareness of these numbers is kind of important. For one, every quote that you get from a dealership, if you're comparing and shopping different dealers, you should know whether it does or does not have the destination charge included. That's for the price of the car, not talking about all the other dealership fees. That'll come down the road, but if they're marketing the car to you, make sure you're asking them, does that price include the destination charge? Because they like to separate them so that they can market it better, and it's unfortunate. Some dealerships do it, some don't. So the ones that don't might lose out, and they have to start doing that just to kind of be competitive, and they want to lead with their best price, but really that's excluding the destination charge, which is part of the price, so anyway. Also, if you look at one and it's front wheel drive, okay, well, if my budget is $26 and it's going to be another $1,400 for the all-wheel drive one, just keep it in mind. You can kind of know what the difference in price is going to be. All right, so now we're going to talk about the actual deals on the brand new Toyota RAV4 2019 and 2020. Now, I want to reiterate, there's a big difference between a incentive from the manufacturer, which is advertised on their commercials nationally. That is a corporate incentive that's offered to the customer or the dealership for, from the brand, from the manufacturer, Toyota, right? From the head honcho, the guy at the top, gal at the top, whoever, the person at the top. So those incentives can be found on the website, the Toyota website or the brand website nationally. And then if you look at the dealership, they're going to have their own special promotions going on, and they're going to utilize some of those, and they're going to do some of their own promotions, and sometimes it's going to be a hybrid of both of them. So you should know what the manufacturer is offering nationally, so that any dealership you go to, you can try to get those incentives, and then also know what each dealership around you is offering. I would recommend that you look at a Google search for like a Toyota dealership in your area and see which one has the most reviews, because that shows that a lot of customers are going there, and which one has the best reviews as well, of course. If you know somebody who bought a car from there, or you know a salesperson who works at one of them that you can trust, or someone in the family, go based on that, because there's a lot of things to know here, and I don't want anyone to be overwhelmed or to think that this is too much to do just to buy a car. But I feel like before I was in the car business, I didn't know any of this stuff. It would be very helpful if you know someone you can trust. And a great way to expedite that process is to find a dealership that has great reviews. So I looked at one of my local Toyota dealerships, and the reason I did that before going to look at the incentives or all that, I just wanted to know what is available out there. And when I went to the local Toyota dealership, I found that they have both available. They have 2019s in stock, and they have 2020s in stock. The 2019s are running out quickly, because every day I check, it kind of goes down, They have, I think there was like 151 total, and there's like 85 new ones, right? Something like that. So mostly new 2020s. And they have kind of slim pickings of the 2019. So if you don't care about color and things like that, you can really negotiate the best deal on those 2019s, because they want to get rid of them quickly. If they get rid of them by the end of the year, and in this case, the incentives I'm going to show you on the 2019s, they end on January 6th, 2020. So if they sell all these cars out before those incentives go away, then they're golden. But if they don't, they might be stuck with some 2019s for months afterwards when the season's kind of slows down. All right, so now let's say this. You want to get a 2019 RAV4 because you want to save money on it, and you want to get the perfect one for you because it's a lot of money. Nobody wants to buy a brand new car and not get one that they're happy with. I completely understand that, and I've heard that a lot. So what I would say is, if you're willing to take a deal on a car, be willing to be open to color, because there might be a color that's not very popular. Perhaps it's one that you actually like, and maybe it's going to stand out differently from somebody else. Maybe you like the brown one, right? Or maybe you like the maroon one that nobody else wants, and they have 10 of them. If that's the case, capitalize on that and, use that as a negotiation tool. Don't necessarily tell the salesperson that you like the color. You might even embellish that you don't really like the color, and they hear that all the time, whatever. If they have a lot of them, they're going to want to get them off the lot. So that could be a good thing to do. Take a look at the inventory of the dealerships and see about that. But for one, if you're buying a car and you're expecting a big discount, then you should also expect to sacrifice a little bit on getting the exact model you want. If you want to pick the exact color and everything you want, nobody's stopping you from getting the next model year that's coming out, where you can custom order whatever you want, do a dealership exchange where they order one from somewhere far away and get it here. If you're willing to pay for it, they'll give it to you. If you're not, you should be open-minded. The customers I sold cars to who got the best deals didn't care about color, and they took the cars that had like 120 miles on them or whatever, and they got an excellent deal, maybe another $500 off from the other guy or gal, right? So just be open-minded when it comes to getting a deal. You might get a deal, and you might get lucky that you actually really like the spec that you find. All right, now that you have an idea of kind of the inventory that they have available from local dealerships around you, realistically you could get your hands on right now, I would recommend that you go to the Edmunds New Car Incentives page. If you go to Edmunds.com, you can look up the incentives available on the RAV4. You can look up a 2019 incentives and the 2020 incentives. As I mentioned to you, Toyota nationally is offering incentives up till the 6th of January, which is next month, in the year 2020, next year. In this case, we're seeing that Toyota is offering a customer cashback incentive, and they have some other special financing incentives and financing rates. They have a 1.9 finance rate up to 60 months as a special. That's an incentive, right? They also have a 3.9, I think, for up to 72, which is a special. That's an incentive. So this is not like a a rate that you're just going to get. This is, first of all, it has high standards of qualification. You have to have a certain credit score. I didn't look at what that is, but it's important that you kind of know what financing rates are available. If you have your own bank and you get a better rate from them or a similar rate from them and you want to go with them, that's great, do that. But keep in mind that they do have a financing rate which can be combined if you finance with Toyota, and that is the $12.50 is a customer cashback offer that they're offering to anybody, whether you buy cash, you finance with them, you finance with your other bank. You can get $1,250 off your 2019 RAV4 up until January 6th. Now, if you finance with Toyota, you can get an additional $750 customer cashback, totaling $2,000 of a rebate from Toyota. This is very important. It's also very important that you pay attention to the stipulation on this one, because it says it cannot be combined. This additional $750 cannot be combined with a special financing rate, I believe is what they're saying there. It says subvented rate or something. I'm pretty sure what that means is that the 1.9 or the 3.9 for 72 months is a special rate, which it's basically like giving you money to reduce the amount of interest rate. They're actually going to charge you more interest, but the amount of money that they're going to reduce to keep the rate lower is just for marketing purposes. It's really like a cash incentive that is displayed as a 1.9 special finance rate. They might actually be charging you like 2.5 or something like that. It might actually be costing them that amount to get the loan for you, but then they're going to give you the cash value that makes the difference so that it's the same as 1.9, so they can sell it to you that way. So they're not going to give you the $12.50 cash incentive for anybody, plus the $750 if you finance with them, plus a special 1.9% interest rate. So some of these will not be compatible with each other. If you do the $750, then you might have to go up a little bit you might not get that special rate. And if you do the $750 in addition to the $12.50, totaling $2,000 incentive from Toyota, then you will have to go with Toyota financing to get that. You can't do your own bank. So look at the options. If you get that $750, if you don't, if you get a better rate somewhere else, if you don't, there's ways to look at that and see if it works for you. But the key point here is that this is an incentive from the dealership, from the manufacturer. This is an incentive from the manufacturer, not from the dealership. So if you finance with Toyota without the special rate, and you buy a 2019, not a 2020, you can get up to $2,000 cash back from Toyota. Now the dealership, they still have their 6 to 8% markup on the car. These days, I think it's like less, it's just harder to get profit because they're so competitive. But 6 to 8% of a $25,000 car, whatever it is, like $2,000, $1,500, I don't know, I didn't do the math. That, they can still give you that because they really are motivated to get rid of these cars. And that $2,000 from Toyota is just like a bonus to help incentivize the customer to push these cars off the lot. Now, it's interesting because this is one of the best-selling cars, so they really shouldn't need to incentivize it. But Toyota is a great marketing company. I'm reiterating that again because they seem to do a great job with marketing, and you can tell. As someone like me who's just been doing it for a long time, I worked with Honda, and they kind of let the product speak for itself. They have a lot of loyal customers that come back, but Toyota is really clever with their marketing, and I think that that's why they're doing it this way, incentivizing this car, which is one of their best sellers. So Edmunds.com is great because you can look at all of these together, but you could also go directly to the source, which is Toyota. So if you go to Toyota.com, you can kind of see the differences, and you can see that the 1.9 is not offered on the 2020 model. The 1.9 special financing rate is not offered on the 2020 model, and the $12.50 plus the $750, all those cash offers, those rebates, they're not available in the 2020 model. So they're definitely not incentivizing the 2020. If you want to pick the best car, you want the 2020 trim that's not available in the 2019, you're going to have to pay for it because they have deals going on the 2019s. That's what they're focused on selling. The 2020s, they expect them to sell regardless. They have more time for those. They're just coming out. So there's no reason for them to give you a whole bunch of money off of those. So that's what I mean about keeping open-minded. You could get a great deal in 2019. And if you want something special, you can go for 2020, but you just got to pay for it. Also, just make sure you read the fine print on the bottom. I know it's kind of confusing. You could use a dictionary if you want. That's what I had to do about the subvented rates thing. Ask your dealership, ask somebody who's a trusted person, whatever. Ask me in the comments, whatever you want to do. If you don't have understanding of what the fine print means. But I think just generally you can kind of see some keywords in the fine print that'll kind of tell you, like this is a finance cash, and it's labeled that way. It's bonus finance cash. So that leads me to believe that it's not available if you don't finance with Toyota Financial Services. So just kind of know like which incentives are available, and keep in mind again that those are from the manufacturer and they're not from the dealership. Now the dealership might offer something in addition to that. So if they have something at one dealer that the other dealer doesn't have, then sure, go to that other dealer for that. But just know what you're being offered, you know? I think the reason people don't like dealerships and the reason dealerships do tricks is because they are so competitive and it's such a like sales focus, you know? So people are skeptical when they go in, and they have all these complicated deal structures. That's why I'm making this video in the first place. So people are skeptical, they go in, the dealership is competing with other dealerships who are being just as like clever or tricky with their marketing or their advertisements. And they're utilizing these supports, these incentives that come from the manufacturer in clever ways to even make it more complicated, so that people don't really know what they're doing when they go in there. They don't really know how to negotiate. They don't know how much money they're leaving on the table. So it's good. The least you could do is really just look up the incentives that are being offered, and then you can kind of use that as your information. Now, if you know a lot, you don't have to worry about the extra $200, $300, $400. It's not a big deal, honestly. I mean, every bit of money that you can get back is a big deal. But do yourself a favor and kind of just take a breath, take your time, learn about what you can get, what you can't get, what's reasonable, and buy the car. It's going to be so much more stressful for you to try to understand everything exactly. And that's why I say, again, like, find somebody who you can trust, and if you have a good experience at a dealership or with a salesperson, you should try to stay with that person, because they're going to help you. You know, like, as a former salesperson, when I told people just as forthrightly as I'm telling you all this information, and they would come back to me, they would refer people, and it was a good relationship, and they would come back to me the next time. The experience was so much easier. So it's like, you should be skeptical, you should be careful, you should do your research. That's what this whole video is about. But also, you know, try to find somebody who you can trust and work with them a little bit, because the information's out there. The internet kind of made it that way. And so anyway, so now when you do your research, we're talking about deals and incentives. You've learned kind of what's at the dealership, what's available in the market local to you, what realistically is available. You've learned what's being offered by the manufacturer, and perhaps you've also learned what's being offered by specific dealerships next to you. So what you could do is go to 3 different sources again for pricing information. Now, I'm going to show you, I told you at the beginning that these examples for pricing are based on the base model and front wheel drive. So one great source is Kelley Blue Book. If you go to kelleybluebook.com and you put in all the information for the car you're looking for, then you're going to see the pricing. In this case, the MSRP is $26,770 for the 2019, and the bottom part of the range is $23,089. What I found between the 3 pricing sources is that if I looked at the bottom part of the range for all of them, they were very, very close. Now, that's how I could kind of keep it apples to apples comparison and kind of get an average again between these 3 sources. What I want to warn you about, and as I've kind of given you like a somewhat of a disclaimer already, is that there's a lot of things that dealerships could be doing to try to trick you, right? And so it pays to do your research, and it pays to find somebody you can trust. But at the end of the day, dealerships are just trying to scramble to like make as much money as they can, because sometimes they lose money on the front end of the deal. They try to make it up in service and other ways, and they're just trying to run their business and compete, especially in a place like where I live, which is in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of business, there's a lot of educated people, very competitive market for cars. And you can see the regional adjustment for this on some of these other ones I'll show you. Like in this market, the prices are lower for these cars. So don't stick stubbornly to any particular thing. You know, like there's a range here, a fair market range on the Kelley Blue Book from 23 to 25. I think 25 is too much. I think 23 would be one that you might not want that car. It might be a demo. It might have, you know, it might be one of those like ugly colors that nobody wants, right? It could be a lot of things why the price is so low. Also, these prices are averages of like all the transactions that happened. So a lot of these could be including incentives that you may or may not qualify, right? Like there's a military incentive you may not be able to get. So it's like, don't go on this 100%. Use this as a basis for your research. And if you get offered around 24 for the sale price, or, you know, 23.5 or something like that, that is within the range. So just be open-minded to that. And if you had a great experience with the person, they might save you a lot of time and stress over the next couple of years or several years when you're buying a car. So it's worth it, I think, to kind of just take it easy. You know, you found what a good price is, go with that. Don't go like every night stressing out about this for the next 2 weeks until you make the decision. Is this right? Is this, like, it's stressful. You're never gonna find the best deal. That just doesn't exist, because it could always, the best deal is for them to pay you to take the car. They could do that for you. They couldn't do that for everybody. They could do it one time, but that doesn't mean anything. There's no meaning in that. The best deal is what you could get for a car you like with an experience that you're happy with. So use this as a basis. Kelley Blue Book says $23 and $89 for the lowest part of the range. Now Edmunds is cool because it's giving you the true market value. It's saying about 24, which compared to Kelley Blue Books was like 24 as well. So a fair price is like 24. You can kind of know that. If you want an exceptional deal, including the incentives, Edmunds says that the true market value with the customer cash adjusted is $23,107 for Edmunds. Now TrueCar, who wants to be as competitive again, they are like trying to take over the world when it comes to buying a new car and even used cars and things like that. TrueCar is really being aggressive with their marketing and everything, and they're a good source. They have the lowest price, and I think that's intentional. And they also don't itemize it. They don't give you a range or anything. They just say, oh yeah, market average $23,040. I'm sure that includes a lot of incentives that you may not qualify for. And TrueCar uses a lot of like USAA and military people. They might get that military discount. So take this with a grain of salt. But the average, when you combine all three of these sources, is $23,079. Now again, I told you that that's kind of something to base it on. That's a great deal, especially at the end of the year. That might even be, you could get something lower, you know what I mean? I would just say be careful with like expecting that or thinking that's owed to you, because it's not necessarily. You could potentially get something better depending on the dealership, the inventory. If it's literally the last minute of the month and they are like one car away and it's just like a unicorn of a deal that you're never gonna come across, I wouldn't spend multiple days planning on that to save a couple $100, because I think the time is more valuable than that, honestly. But it's a pretty good deal. And again, this is based on incentives that are going to change month to month. So if this video is being viewed like 6 months into the future from now, these cars might have already sold out, and you're going to be clicking those links and looking at incentives on the 2020s, because that's the only thing that are available. And maybe these prices are going to be higher, maybe they're going to be lower. I don't know. Toyota is good at marketing, and the way that they restructured their trim levels, perhaps it'll make them competitive even more or similarly to how they are now. Who knows? But the point is, do your research and try to find out like what an idea of a good or a great deal is, and then go based on that. So now the payments. When you're looking for a car, a new car, and you're looking at payments, you might go to the dealership, you find a great deal, you negotiate, or you don't, whatever. You just get the car that you want, and they give you payment options, and they go up to 72 or 84 months. 84 months is a long time. That's 7 years of paying off a car. You're going to buy a car, and 5 years from now, you're going to want to trade out of it, and you still have 2 years left. It's just too much. 72 is a long time. For a Toyota like this, which has great resale value, 72 months might not be that bad. Just make sure that you can afford the payment, because I see that for the front-wheel drive base one, it's going to be around $410, something like that for 72 months, right? It's completely like in a range. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. It depends on the taxes, it depends on all the fees and like how much you paid for the car and all that stuff. But for 60 months, in the higher 400s, like 470, something like that, for a front-wheel drive RAV4 with a great discount. Now, if you look at this finance rate, I did an Excel sheet just kind of give you an example, right? Let's say that the dealership on the 2019 on the front-wheel drive base RAV4 gave you a $2,000 discount, right? And then you took advantage of the 1.9 special for 60 months. With the taxes in Virginia estimated, the total amount financed would be $26,850. You're not putting any money down for 60 months. Your payment would come out to like $469. It's pretty great, I think, for 60 months to pay it off with that. Now, if you do, let's see here. Let's say you take advantage of the customer cash, which is the incentive, in addition to the $2,000 discount from the dealership. You take advantage of the manufacturer rebate of $1,250. Then your payment is reduced, and you could take advantage of that probably with the 1.9, and you could get $447 as your payment, and that's pretty great too. Now let's say you took advantage of the $2,000 dealership discount and the $1,250 customer cash from Toyota, plus the $750 for the finance cash from Toyota, your deal comes out to $4,000 off. That's pretty incredible for a car that costs $26,000 because it's like 11-12%, and that's a lot, right? Especially on a low price car, they don't have as much markup in that. So that's a great amount, I think, $4,000 off. That's using a lot of the incentives together. You have to finance with Toyota, but I don't think that's available with the 1.9 special financing rate. So let's say you get like 3.9 for 60 months, the payment goes to $455. So this is all an example, but you can use a calculator, an auto loan calculator online, kind of get an idea, go based on that, and you can kind of see the payment ranges for this car. So while you're paying like $470, $450, something like that for this car, depending on the deal you get and the taxes and all that, for the 2020, you'd probably end up paying like $500 because there is no incentive right now, you know? So it's a pretty significant difference on the monthly payment. Now, if you look at the like the middle equipment level, $32,000 car, I could say probably like a $2,500 discount from the dealership. And then again, you can add the $1,250 and you can kind of go down there and see. For this middle of the range car, I would say like $560 for 60 months is reasonable. $490 for 72. Again, this is in Virginia. So it really depends, but you can do these numbers by yourself. You can get an idea like, hey, how much of the taxes, add that, add the destination, the processing, all these fees, just make sure you know what they are. Add them up, put them in the calculator, see an idea of what your credit would be, and you can do this. You can get an idea of like what your payment budget is before you go in there. I would negotiate, try to get the lowest price for the car, and then, you know, you should know both. You should know both. You should know the difference between negotiating on a payment and negotiating on a price. The dealership, and as a salesperson, I don't know if I want to say I don't work for a dealership anymore, but they want to isolate you onto one of those. They want to negotiate either on a price or a payment. They want to do a payment most likely because then there's a lot more variables that they can control, like the interest rate and all that stuff. But if you negotiate on the price first, you negotiate on the price and you try to get the lowest price, they're going to try to switch you to the payment probably, right? So try to stay on the price. Be like, no, I want to get the best price, right? I want to get the MSRP reduced. I want to, reduce from MSRP this amount. I want to get like $2,000 discount. I want to utilize the incentive. I want to get like $4,500 off on this $32,000, car. And I want to pay out the door. You're going to do the taxes calculation, whatever it comes to, like $29 for a $32,000 car plus taxes and fees. At the end of the day, to be paying $29,720 is what I estimated. That's pretty great, I think. So then you look at the payments and then you have to calculate your interest. So these are two separate numbers you're looking at. One is the price of the car. The other is the payment that you're going to pay every month. And they are tied together, but they can be negotiated separately. And so just keep an eye out on that. All right, so now let's talk about the verdict in the end. What do you think about this car? If you did your research, you're going to know about the incentives that they're offering on the existing model year, the outgoing one, versus what they're offering or not offering on the next model year. You're going to know about the dealership inventory, what they have in stock, what they don't, and you're going to know about the incentives that are offered from the manufacturer versus the dealership. You're also going to know the financing options. How are you going to buy the car? Are you going to finance it? Are you going to pay cash? Whatever, which incentives go with which one, how many months you're going to pay, and you're going to know the difference between the monthly budget and the price. So it's important that you keep all that stuff in mind. I hope that this has been helpful for you. I would say that the RAV4 is an excellent car, and it's cool because it has such a great resale value. You could justify doing a 72-month loan. Perhaps if you put more cash down up front, that would be a better idea to mitigate that risk of taking on a loan on a depreciating asset. Although it depreciates a lot more slowly with the RAV4, 60 months is better. The shorter the term, the better. But it's great because you can get a good interest rate for a long-term loan. Not long-term, but longer than that. And the car obviously is very good because it sells very well. We did note that we saw when we did the reviews, the research for the reviews, is that it's not the best driving car. So if that's something that's important to you, you might look at something else. But overall, I think it's a very good option, and that's why it's the best-selling car out there. So, thank you everybody for watching. Check out all the information in the description below. I look forward to seeing you next time.